Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this edition of Small Business Breakthroughs. And I know you're all excited. It's much like you wait all year for Christmas, you wait all year for your birthday. It's SBDC Day, and we are here to celebrate. We're celebrating the work of SBDCs across the country. If you're not aware, there are probably close to 1,000 SBDCs across the country. And we are also celebrating, even more so, the work of the small business owners that work with the SBDCs. I know we are grateful for all of the small business owners that trust in us to help them out, support what they're working on, and really, hopefully, connect them to what they need to make their dreams of small business ownerships a reality. So again, it is SBDC Day, and when you see somebody from an SBDC today, be sure you say Happy SBDC Day. So, and on SBDC Day, I want to do a couple of different things here. First of all, I want to welcome or introduce our partners, the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center. I am in the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, although I have my SBDC Day background on. We are at the deck, and the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center is a venue that both provides space and community and networking and opportunities for entrepreneurs to connect and work together to help them build their businesses. There are a number of businesses here. There are a number of virtual businesses that are part of the deck. And obviously, we as the Small Business Development Center have been involved in the deck since the very beginning. And we are grateful for their participation as partners in this particular program. Today, we are excited to have Tonya Wilson joining us. Tonya is an SBDC advisor for our SBDC at Columbus State Community College, and she is the person really behind the marketing of the center, the branding of the center, but she also does a lot of work with small business owners around their marketing, their planning, their strategies, and different things of that nature. So we are looking forward to talking to Tonya today about what she sees in terms of working with small business owners, what they should be thinking about, what maybe they don't think about, and different things like that we think can help them going forward. So Tonya, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So let's get started. I want to let you kind of introduce yourself. Tonya's been with the center for a number of years, and we're happy to have her be part of this. And just tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what all you do with the center.
Well, in addition to being with the center since 2007, I've been with Columbus State Community College since 1992. And so in that amount of time, I have, taught some classes adjunct here at Columbus State. My educational background is I have an associate's degree in multimedia production, a bachelor's degree in organizational management, and I have my master's in marketing and communication. And so it is kind of a haphazard, series of events, but somehow they all came together and gave me a really, broad background of experience and knowledge for working with business owners, because it does give me, not only do I have, at least even though that associate's degree was too long ago to mention the date, so I won't age myself. But it does give me the foundation for all the digital technology that's going on today, as well as website development, etc. And so here at the center, I am a certified business advisor. And so as a certified business advisor, I advise businesses through all aspects of their business, from they have an idea till they've been in business for 30 years, and now they're looking for a succession plan or, a way to sell the business or pass the business on. And And so I work with all businesses in all industries, any stage of business. And but my primary business is my primary background experience and my love is in marketing.
Okay, so I think I've got us set up here now.
Okay.
So yeah, like I said, I mean, having you come on, help us with the marketing, bring, the expertise. And like you said, I mean, it's just a continual effort to
Mhm.
learn, stay up to date, different things like that. And I think that that's the beauty of what you're able to oftentimes bring to the small business owners that we deal with, because most of them, unless they're a marketing agency, don't come in necessarily to do marketing. It's kind of like I always say, they don't come in to do financials, they don't come in necessarily to do marketing. They come in because they have a passion around something and they're trying to share that or sell that and different things of that nature. There's just different aspects of the business that they need to be part of. And having the SBDC and having Tonya on board that can stay up on that stuff and actually share it, I think is really valuable. So let's get started. I want to kind of start talking about, you know, we're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about marketing and branding. For anyone that is here that's joined us today, if you have questions, put it in the chat. I have that up and I'd be happy to share that information. Um, what do you see when you think about marketing?
Mhm.
Do you see an appreciable difference between the marketing that is done and needed around supporting a small business versus maybe a medium-sized business or a little bit larger business?
Um, yeah, with those two different sizes of businesses, the primary difference is the access to resources, right? So the resources that are available to them, um, and their reach and kind of stage of business. And so with a small business, most of those businesses are usually local, and they will focus on more of a niche audience. Whereas a companies can be larger scale and focus on a much broader audience. Again, the ability to focus on those larger scales is going to have a lot to do with the money that is available, and then all the resources and the human capital. Having internal marketing firms or medium businesses being able to outsource all of that to other companies based on actually what you do, for a small business and for a large business. Those are really it's there's not much difference in that, right? It's really a lot of it is just about the it all determines on what the need is and what the stage is, right? So if you have a small business that has been around for 20 years, it may be in a similar stage as a large business where they are trying to, maybe they're doing well, financially, their market is stable, they have a good audience, but they want to evolve, and they want to either attract a new audience or develop more loyalty and advocacy among their current customers. um, that's where you would expect a lot of large companies to be, and so you see a lot of that for people who are Coca-Cola fans. Coca-Cola does a lot around loyalty and around advocacy, and trying to attract their companies, where it's a lot. I don't know if they're still doing it. Been trying to be a little bit healthier these days and not drink Coca-Cola as much. But when you go into the grocery stores and they have those single 20-ounce bottles, for a long time they had individuals' names on the back of them. And so you could find, so it was always kind of a thing if you could go in the store and find a Coca-Cola bottle that had your name on it or someone else's name on it. All of that was an effort to connect with their consumers and to really develop that loyalty and maintain that connection. And so, there are small businesses that could be in that similar stage. A lot of smaller businesses may be in the earlier stages of growth, in terms of building awareness and growing. And so that's typically where they are, before they reach that large company level. And so that's where we find most of the small businesses. So most of the small businesses, we are focusing on building awareness, getting name recognition out there, making sure their products and services are known. But that's primary. That's really the primary difference. It's the access to resources to be able to do something on a much larger scale, but the activities are the same.
Right. So when you mentioned Coca-Cola, we have to give a shout out to Fresca, which is part of the
Right.
Coca family.
Yes.
Um, let me take a step back because I think I kind of jumped a little bit forward. When you talk about marketing,
Hmm.
and you mentioned some of this as you were talking, but what do you classify when you say marketing? What do you mean?
So marketing is it is it's the process of being able to connect your product and your service and your company image to your customers, to be able to communicate to your customers what you have available, why they should engage with you, how you're better and different from your competitor. And so marketing is the overall process that encompasses um, all of the outreach, the branding, positioning, and advertising. I think a lot of times when people think about marketing, the first thing they go to is advertising. And so they think about the ads and, the content that's being put out there, the social media posts, but that is just an element of marketing. And so marketing has everything to do with the brand and the story you tell about your business, how you design your products or services, so that knowing who your audience is, knowing who your competition is, how you set in the environment. It's all of the different components combined.
Okay. And for small business owners, I mean, everybody, I mean, you always hearing about branding, different
Hmm.
things of that nature. So how would you describe kind of branding of business, or is it branding of the business? Is it branding of the products, or is it a little bit of everything?
Branding primarily is around the company and creating the company's identity.
Okay.
Who is the company? And so a lot of that is going to come into what is the story behind your company. And so who are you? Why did you get in this? Why did you choose to do this? What does it matter? What is your why? It also talks about the mission of the company. So again, why they're doing this, and kind of like what are they doing, for who are they doing it, why are they doing it, how are they doing it. That's always how I like to build a mission statement. Sometimes it gets into the vision. Not everyone, the vision is internal, but like that is like your North Star. Your vision as to, you started this business because you wanted to become something, or you wanted to achieve something, or be a change or a catalyst, for something, for a network of people. Um, and it also tells the customer what they can expect from this particular company or brand. It helps when you have a good branding, of course, has its visual elements. That's what most people are familiar with. And so you have your logo, your specific color scheme. If you have any kind of icons, mascots, or whatever, all that goes into the visual elements. You also have your voice or personality of the brand. Sometimes it's just a tone. So maybe you want to be, personable or whatever. But all of that goes in. The goal with branding is to influence the customer perception. And so positively, right? So that you can influence them to purchase your product, and hopefully in that process, grow your market share. By having a brand, it helps you build recognition. It differentiates you from your competitors. And then hopefully, if done well, ultimately will build trust and loyalty in your target audience.
And that's why I think it's important for small business owners to have access to folks like yourself or others that understand marketing, because again, I think you hit it on the head. I think a lot of times people think branding is the logo
Mhm.
and that's it.
Right.
or to a lesser degree, they start to think branding is just let's use the same color on everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of places don't use the same color on everything, so it gets like super confusing. So I think that small business owners have a tendency to, again, they didn't get into this to do marketing.
Right.
So having at least the knowledge and the expertise to kind of think through that as they're putting things together. Um, so let's start. I want to talk about, the preparation and planning that's involved. Now, I know you do a 4-session marketing program for us once a quarter. And I know a lot of that is this preparation and planning component. And
Yes.
and I know in this you do a lot of work, or get folks doing a lot of work around identifying their target market, understanding their customers, different things like that. And that, for the folks that work with us from inception, going through base, they go into biz start, and there's a lot of conversation around understanding your market and different things like that, because that's important to be successful. So can you talk a little bit about kind of this preparation and planning step, especially in terms of identifying your target market?
Yeah. That Identifying the correct target market is the most. There's so many important, pieces to this, but the audience is the most important, right? That is the number one thing. Your goal is that you're creating a product or service, and you want someone to buy that product or service. And so we need to make sure that we are catering to them, that we fully understand them. And so when we're going through the planning process, one of the most important things is when we're looking at this audience, one, we want to think about, because I guess there's two ways when you're creating a business. Some people will have a product, or something that they've created, and then they go and look for an audience. Or someone will, discover an audience who needs something. There's a gap in the market, and they will design the product or service to fill that gap to meet that audience. That I would, kind of define as the easier route, right? Because you are targeting that audience. It's a little harder to have something that's already created and then go find an audience for it. But in the process, what we want to do is I always want to ask them to thoroughly define what it is that they do. And one of the things that that I use in the marketing session, it's what the same thing we start out with in base when you teach base, Mike, and we look at the problem solution. And I try to get down to the very root cause of that problem. I want to know from a visceral level what it is that a customer needs and that they're looking for. And so, so the problem is like, we talked about Coca-Cola, right? So the problem is that, people are thirsty and they're looking for something tasty to drink, right? I mean, that is the root, the bottom level.
You mean Fresca?
Fresco, I'm sorry. Fresco. I do like its citrus, grapefruit flavoring. So that is my
Well, they
favorite.
don't make cab anymore, so we got to go with Fresca.
Yes. So, that's the root problem, right? Someone is thirsty and they're looking for something other than water, right? The solution could be if you're if you're a beverage producer, you have this, and so, but then you want to target exactly who that audience is, because with, Fresca or any of the other Coca-Cola or anything like that, there is Coca-Cola itself is actually one of their challenges right now is being able to compete in the health market, right? More and more people are looking for healthier alternatives, and so they're having a hard time finding an alternative for sugar. And so whereas these individuals who are looking for these healthier beverages, Coke is losing them. They're losing that market share. And so they are going to have to recreate a product, and find one that's going to speak to that audience. And so that's why the audience is very important. And so if we look at from that problem solution piece, to be like, what is the problem, that exists in the market that my product or service solves? And how am I the solution to that product and service? And then the next question is, who has this problem? And where can I find them? And so we want to define who that person is on the same level as we know our family members and our friends or whatever. We want to be intimately aware of who this person is. That's why one of the recommendations that we have in our Biz Start class, and then I follow up, of course, in the marketing class, is that you create a persona. And so really look at them from a demographic level. And so a lot of the demographics that are important are looking at, is this person, what gender are they? What age are they? Where are they geographically located? What is their household income? What is their family status? All of these things matter. For me, I look at the demographics of as in if that person can purchase the product or service. So are they in the right location, especially if it's something local? Are they able to buy it? And so in general interest. And so when we're doing that, that is like the overall market. So if if I switch, I always like to use skincare lotions as my examples. And so everyone has skin, right? Everyone has skin, but not everyone is going to want a particular type or need a particular type of lotion. And so let's say if there is a lotion that is targeted towards females, that doesn't necessarily mean that every female is going to want that lotion. So now we have to define so we know like, okay, this female can purchase this lotion, right? They're in the right location, they make enough money, etc. So now I need to find out, will they buy it? And so that's when I go to the psychographics. So now that's going to tell me, what are they interested in? What are their values? What are their activities? What do they do? It also helps you, the more you know about the person personally and what they're interested in, the more you can cross-reference your advertising and be able to locate them. So demographics is who are they and if they can buy. Psychographics is will they buy?
Okay.
And then the one thing to understand too is that sometimes you will hear us, and I do it myself, interchangeably say target market, target audience. So target market is the whole of everyone. So from a demographic standpoint, it would be every female within a certain range or what have you. And as we spoke about at the top, in terms of the market, I got distracted there. in terms of the audience is the small business. When I said in terms of small business will typically niche. And so now we want to find out who is the particular audience and who is the particular group of that overall market that is interested in this particular product. And that is what we would define as an audience.
So now let's say we've identified the audience, we understand the market. You made a great point. I think that a lot of the folks that come to see us, a lot of folks that start small businesses start with a product or a service idea, then have to shift, at least find a market.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes they don't think that they have to go out and do the research. They have to go out and find the market because they like it, and they make assumptions that other people will like that. But when you identify the market, you understand the market, you do this. So let's talk about kind of the next step of this, at least in my opinion, is identifying the goals of your marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm assuming the next step would be identifying the strategy to reach those goals and deliver the service.
Yeah. I do stick one step in between those two, is that I go after looking at the competition, of course. It's taking a peek at the competition and determining what that unique selling proposition is.
Okay.
And so and then from there, the next step in terms of the execution of the marketing, what is most important for me is to define what is your goal. And so the goal is that, of course, you know, sometimes it seems like it's obvious, right? So obviously my goal is to sell something or to make money. But and that's fine, that's true. But if we sell one item or we make $1, then, you know, we've achieved that goal. So what we want to do is really define what it is that we need for our business. So really making sure this is great, even though I use cost projections a lot when I'm doing marketing because I like to really see exactly how much money is going out of this business, and so making sure that I know how much revenue I need to bring in for a particular area. And so if you are one of the goals is that, as always, I recommend is doing a revenue goal. And so you can look at that goal, and we have you create those goals as something that is going to be measurable. So in terms of a SMART goal. And so let's say if we look at the first quarter, or, you know, the next 3 months, you know, whatever quarter of the year we're in, and we say, okay, in the next quarter, you know, I want to make $10,000, or I want, um, or whatever the goal is. We want to make sure that that goal is attainable. So, you know, we can't go from 0 to 1 million in the first quarter. So that's not an attainable goal. So we do want to make sure it is attainable and large enough to help make a difference in our business. And then I also recommend doing a brand recognition goal, you know, for building awareness, especially for our audience who are just starting out, you know, even if they've been in business for a few years, you know, awareness is always a really important factor. So we start with those goals, and then from there, you know, we ask ourselves the question, what is the best way for me to reach these goals? You know, what are the best ways for me to reach the target audience so I can get to these goals? And so at that point, you know, we select from whatever, again, depending on what the product is, depending who the customer is, what and primarily depending on who the customer is, what those strategies are going to be. You know, we have you have digital, social media, you have paid advertising, print advertising, PR, you know, public relations. You can do networking, event marketing. So there's a whole series of different strategies. And so we choose those strategies. And then within those strategies, then we define what is the individual tactics, is what is the official marketing term that we would use. So if we choose social media, we will then look at specifically in social media, what is the right platform? And so it's not all platforms. We do not want to be on all platforms. We only want to be on the platform where our audience is. So we select the platform by the audience. And so let's say if we're doing social media, Facebook is the target platform. And then from there, that's when all the execution would begin on Facebook. We'd start creating the campaigns, content marketing, etc.
So I want to kind of slip into that now,
Mm-hmm.
talking about, so I broke it down here into more of the, I'm going to use the term traditional, or kind of, I'm going to use the term in person versus
Mm-hmm.
digital. So when we think about in-person marketing, you know, I've got stuff here in terms of event marketing, which you mentioned, you know, creating, you know, opportunities for networking, different things of that nature. And then traditional advertising and PR, you had mentioned. Can you kind of talk about this, what I'm classifying as this in-person kind of
Mm-hmm.
marketing? You know, what do people need to be thinking about as they're thinking about, okay, what is the best type of this more traditional marketing for my business?
Um, you know, I love the word depends, right? It all depends. Depends
Right.
on what we're doing,
Mhm.
right? Audience or product or service. And so event marketing, I think is definitely a great one. I think we see it all the time in the work that we do. In terms, it is a great way for individuals to kind of meet you and get to know who you are and get a taste of your product or service without a huge commitment. And so it can help you begin to build that relationship. And so that's why I love event marketing. In terms of, and so I always think that there's a great place for that, being able to showcase your product. You see a lot of people will offer webinars now. I know we're talking about in person, but that has, but that's a similar thing. But definitely doing any kind of in person, I would say events. You can do information and give information out, and offer up with networking. And so, but anyway, event networking is a great one. In terms of just networking itself, I definitely advise that. Really, you have to get out there as a business owner. No one is going to know you exist. And you can't rely on, even though, all of the other marketing strategies are great, you want to get out there and get it in front of people and get to know who your people are. Because as a small business owner, you and your business are one. You are synonymous with your business. And even if in a career, as most people may know, usually, as a career, we kind of hit a ceiling when we're climbing just in a day-to-day ceiling. If we're not talking, you become invisible, right? You have to speak up. You can't be in meetings and be quiet. You need to start getting out there and letting people know who you are and that you exist, and letting and what your voice and what you have to say. And so going out and networking is a great skill. And I will say, I know there's a lot of people who are, probably terrified to hear me say that. I'm one of them. I am an introvert. I do not like, networking is not my thing. But it's always hard for me to go in and make small talk. I'm not a small talk person. So finding ways and really looking into finding ways to connect, you don't always have to go in and start talking business right away, comment on something, on the drinks, on the atmosphere, on something someone is wearing, break the ice. And then, once that, usually the questions will follow, but like, oh yeah, and this is great. Thank you for the compliment. So what do you do? Sometimes those questions will come out. PR, I think PR is a great one for anyone. I definitely recommend anyone who is starting a new business to reach out to any kind of local publications. If you live in the Columbus area, like working through something like the Columbus Dispatch is difficult because that's a gigantic, paper. But for all the little local communities that have their own publications, they are always, wanting to have an opportunity to showcase their residents and the success that they're having. So most likely, if your area has a newsletter, or a magazine, and I think even the Dispatch used to, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have these smaller publications that was like This Week Reynoldsburg or This Week Grove City. And those smaller publications like that are the ones that people actually read, because it talks about what is actually going on in their community. And so events that they can actually attend, and versus, the whole overall. So if you can talk to them, usually you open up that front page of whatever the publication is, and they'll list like who the reporters are. Really small ones will just have a staff reporter, and the other ones will have different topics. And so go after that reporter, who is in your field. Like if you're a teacher or you're, doing some tutoring business, look for the education reporter. They need stuff to write about. So you may be actually, helping them out as well. I think Good Day Columbus
Hold
has
on just a second.
a great thing. Go ahead.
When you talk about that,
Mhm.
think that it's important to know what you're going to pitch them, for lack of a better word.
Oh, of course.
I think, again, it just in experience, I think on a lot of entrepreneurs, they make widgets and they make the greatest widgets in the world. And what they may send them, and this would happen in a press release too, that it's just all widgets all the time. And there's nothing tying it to, why this reporter should have a conversation with you, because you haven't offered them anything other than, your widgets.
Right. Yeah. And so what I was covering, is basically why why it would be beneficial for you to be to reach out to them. But yeah, in the process, we always have to think for that reporter, what are they looking for? We want to find out what they're motivated by, you know, what they need, what kind of information they're looking for. Same thing with our audience, right? So we want to be able to communicate our product and service in terms of the benefits to the other person, not to us, right? So we love our product, right? Our product and service is kind of like our baby, right? And so you know, we can talk about it all day long and how great and wonderful it is. And, you know, but we don't want to get the person that we're talking to be like, yeah, that, you know, I'm happy for you. I'm wonderful. That's wonderful for you. Right. And so what we need to be doing is talking about a need that they have and how this is, you know, can showcase. And so with the reporter, you want to think about like, what is something that they may need to, you know, be wanting to report on? Is this something, what is your product, you know, what does your product do? Is it a new, you know, some type of, a new version of something that is going on? But what kind of benefit can they offer to their readers? And so that's what you want to talk about, is something that's going to be of interest to them. A new product, maybe it's a new restaurant that's opening up, a new location, you know, a new event that's, you know, that they can send out to people that would be newsworthy, like, hey, this event is going on, you can go attend this event. And so we definitely want to have, whenever you're talking to someone, whether it is PR, you know, events, networking event, you're going into everything that you do with a goal. There is a goal other than, we're kind of backdooring that goal, right? So our goal is to sell our product or service, but we got to go at it from the consumer's standpoint. That's what it always matters, is what does the consumer want and need?
Okay. Can you define the difference? But I mean, this seems like it would be logical, but you got marketing and you got sales.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say, okay, marketing is to generate sales, but you know, Barb Park Navy put a question in the chat, you know, how do you tell if you've got a sales issue or if you've got a marketing issue? So really being able to differentiate how one relates to the other, I would think is important.
I would think like, if it is, I would think initially to say, if customers are finding you, you know, if they're finding you, if they're showing up, if they're inquiring, but they're not converting, then there could be a sales issue there, right? Because marketing is half of the equation. So marketing gets you there. So it gets you to the door. But then your execution of that marketing, you know, has to be able to create that sale. So there has to be the marketing, the deliverable has to be what marketing promised. And so there could be something there, like where marketing could have set an expectation that the product or service can't deliver on. And so basically that's it. If you're getting the traffic, if people are showing up, if people, you know, you're getting the engagement, but you're not getting the conversion into the sale, something is going on here in the sell piece.
And I would think that there really are two different things going on here. The marketing is generating the audience, generating the people that might have an interest, bringing them back to the website, doing whatever it is that you need them to do. But I think a lot of times that small business owners, they get into a mindset that, hey, I'm all about marketing because I get to tell my story and we're doing all this and we get the press and the this and the that and the other. But they'll come back and say, I'm not a salesperson. I can't do sales.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's two different things. And
Mm-hmm.
but they're both needed.
Yeah.
And you can get all the people in the world there. And if you can't figure out how to convert, and we're not saying that you got to be doing the used car salesman thing all the time,
Right.
because it's not really it. But the sales piece, you still get to do something that gets them to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I say it all the time, the build it and they will come philosophy, from a
That's
sales standpoint, that doesn't do it.
Mm-mm.
You may build it and they may show up and you may have, some sort of database, but if you can't figure out how to convert them, then that's where you're getting a breakdown.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of, the way I look at a lot of marketing things now, because like if you think about how no one has the time or energy to drive around town looking for a product, right? I mean, so we're not going to drive around anymore hitting multiple stores trying to find one product. We're going to do our search online first. And we're going to look online because most of the inventory you can find out online, whether a store even has it in inventory yet. And so by the time someone walks into your store, I would basically say 80% that sale is yours. If they are walking in the door, that's your sale. All you have to do is close it. And so, and when they get to the door, then all, marketing, all your store, your product or service, all it needs to do is deliver on what marketing said. Because they're there, they've already believed what the marketing message is. And now they just want to see it in person. They want to see it in person, make sure it is what it is, what it's supposed to be. So one of the things that you can do when you're doing the sales component is really think about knowing your audience, knowing your product or service, knowing your competition, trying to really think about what could be an objection that this customer could have over making this purchase. And so is there any kind of uh, objections that you've heard, anything you've heard about your competitors? What can you do to kind of set them at ease and answer any questions that may have? What questions do you anticipate? Questions on quality, questions on, any kind of guarantees there may be, payment arrangements or whatever. You want to start talking to someone, even if someone comes in the door, and that's just, theoretical. Like if someone shows up, if you're able to talk to your customer, whether they're in person or online, and you talk to them and they're like, well, thanks for the information, but I don't think I'm ready right now. At least try to grab them and say, oh, absolutely, I completely understand. And but if you could just do me a favor, I'd love to just know, is there something else I could have done, to help you, make this purchase? I mean, am I missing something? Is there a quality missing? Get some input back then. And a lot of times, a lot of stuff is service.
Right.
Service is a big thing, and customers want to know that you care about them. And customers do business with people they like. That's why that branding piece is so important, about building that recognition and building the customer trust and loyalty. Because just showing that you care and that you're interested in trying to fix that issue could turn that around back into a sale again.
Right. And one thing I would recommend to people, if you are looking for content specific to sales, improving your sales, that I would encourage you to watch the movie Tommy Boy. It's probably one of the great sales movies of all time. So we may have a small business breakthrough that just breaks down Tommy Boy at some point. So,
Yeah, that would be cool.
so it's always amazing how fast this hour goes, but
Yeah.
I do want to cover kind of the digital. I'm going to use the term social media but that's only a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Talk some about that. I mean, you also do a social media planning and preparation class. So digital, social media, obviously you've mentioned the website. Um, you know, people get on and now we got, there's the black magic of SEO and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what should people be? I mean, how should they be looking at this digital so they can stay organized
Mm-hmm.
versus I've guess got so much stuff now from a digital marketing perspective that I don't have time and I don't do it, period.
So in terms of staying organized, one of the great things around social media is the great thing around social media is that you can actually see the analytics of what's going on with your business. Whereas if you do a paper ad, you don't know how many people have seen that. So that is the one of the amazing things about using digital advertising, is that you can get that feedback and you can track it, all the way down practically to an individual almost, right? So if you're using social media and you're using Facebook, Facebook has the Meta business suite, the business manager that you can go into. And you can go in there and you can set all of your Facebook posts up on that session. You can do just basic posts, basic content posts. And then you can also use that same system to do paid advertising. So it's a great way that you can go in and use that system as a planning tool. Obviously, you can also use it for Instagram, since Facebook owns Instagram. For the platforms, and most platforms will have, some sort of scheduling feature. I definitely recommend, when someone is doing social media, the biggest thing that you can do to help yourself is do an editorial calendar. And so when you do that editorial calendar, it can seem unbelievably overwhelming at the beginning. But it is one of the greatest tools that you're going to be able to use. It helps you be strategic in your posting. If you're waking up every day saying, what am I going to post today? You're not going to be successful. It's just not going to happen, because one, the posts will be disjointed. When you are posting, you want it to be a campaign. You want all of them to connect. You want to think about the journey, the customer journey, as to how, when someone discovers something and they move from awareness to consideration to purchase to review and advocacy. So there is a journey that we all go through. Sometimes it's immediate when we're looking for something to drink, and sometimes we hang out in each of those stages if we're buying a car, right? Or something that is much more expensive. And so we want to create posts as we think about that. Every post that we create, we want to have an action behind it, and make sure it is moving those customers down that process. You can't do that by just randomly waking up every day. So I recommend that you, I do like to look at a year in advance, the whole year. And the reason I like to look at that is so that you can, one, on the most, the base level is look at your seasonality of your business. And so, from that standpoint, when your peaks and your lows are, so that you can get ahead of it. But ideally, you can plan out up to a month, of content. You can write all that content and then sit down, like on a Sunday with a cup of coffee, and schedule all those posts, and then go on about your day. And so for the next month, then you just have to make sure that all your devices are set to give you notifications. And when those notifications come in, to make sure that you, of course, are responding to them in a timely manner. So that is really your key to staying really organized. Again, Facebook has its own platform that you can do that on. And then for the platforms that don't, you can use something like Hootsuite or the Buffer. I think there's one called Buffer. There's a ton of them out there. And they usually give you a free one for like maybe one platform and like one admin. And but you can also use those sessions, attach all your social media, and do the same thing. You can, but definitely get ahead of it, and post it in advance, and that will take away that organization issue.
Right. Okay. I want to ask you about 4 things,
Okay.
and just kind of the rapid fire. Our newsletters, you mentioned it before, but I'm going to ask you, are newsletters still a thing?
Big thing. Yes.
Okay.
Every time you go in a store, they ask you for your email address. That's what they're going to do, is sign you up for email newsletters.
Great. What about, and it's funny because we've been doing this for a while. What about QR codes? At one point they were hot, then they went away. Now they seem to be on everything.
Yeah, I think QR codes, right, they are back. I mean, at first, I think people didn't realize the value of them.
Right.
But you can see them from far distances away, and it's very easy to get people there. That way, if you're sitting there, thinking that they're going to type in your website, you just don't want to get a chance to lose them, right? And so the easiest way is to do that QR code that now everybody can scan with their camera phone.
I know that with a lot of our training programs that we do, or just presentations we do where we're out talking about the SBDC or whatever, we've started installing multiple QR codes on there because
Mhm.
we know the people will sit in the audience, they'll listen to what you're saying, they'll see what's going on, but you can also then connect with them right away. So in
Mhm.
our case, if they're looking to actually connect with us in an advising relationship, when we're talking about advising, that QR code's there that they can go on right away and engage and be connected to Teresa, who would set them up. So QR codes are important, um, and they're not hard to put together either. I think
Hmm.
some people might say, I don't know how to do QR codes. What do you recommend there?
Um, there are a lot of people know Canva. I think Canva has the ability to do QR codes. There are a lot of free websites. Adobe, you can do QR codes from there. Just go in and go and Google, how to do a QR code. Just be sure that there is no time limit on it. So sometimes they'll say a free one and there's a time limit. So I'm always worried about all of a sudden that not working. So just be careful with that, especially if you're using a free feature. But there are a lot, especially Canva is definitely a design software that has a free feature, and so you can use
Okay,
that. I think that's what most people are using.
great. Um, Rapid fire. What about podcasting? Mhm. Everybody's got a podcast now. We do.
Yeah, yes.
What's Mhm.
You know, uh, my personal, I think jury is out on that right now. I mean, I think the podcast is a great way to extend the brand, right? Extend your brand and be able to let people know who you are, and especially if you have a service-based business. I think it's very effective with that. If you're a consultant or any kind of subject matter expert, it's a way to get that information, out there. I don't know how many, I haven't researched how many conversions people are getting, and what that impact is from doing the QR code, but if you're trying to establish yourself as a subject matter expert in your field, I do think it could be very valuable.
Okay. And then the last rapid fire
Mhm.
is influencer or influence marketing. This is something you can answer like in 2 seconds.
Uh, uh, for a product, yes. If you
Okay.
have you have a product, if you can get someone who has a huge audience, to be able to showcase your product, it could be beneficial for that.
Do you have any sense, uh, kind of what it would take to be able to engage with some of these folks, or do you have to get the multi-million-dollar influencer, or maybe to your point, the very early on, where we talked about understanding the market? If you have an influencer that really is resonating with that market, even if they don't have 5 million TikTok followers or whatever, that could be really good to look at. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking at if you find someone that definitely that you're interested in, if you feel that you are your own target audience, then yeah, I would say reach out to them directly. They will tell you if they are going through. I do know that there are some marketing firms and agencies who are basically like representatives of the influencers, but yeah, it may be really great to just, catch some that are up and coming. A lot of people will have these DMs set, and yeah, and people love to get, especially if they're, becoming influencers. But if they have a pretty good following, I would definitely just reach out to them directly and and take it from there. Because in usually if they have someone, if they're offering themselves as a influencer, it's probably in their bio, like how to connect with them.
And I would think too that you should do some research on them before beyond that particular platform. So say
Right.
they're really big on TikTok and maybe even, some of the other Instagram, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but there's also, do some other research around there too. I'm
Mhm.
not saying you got to go through every tweet for the last 30 years, but I mean, try to, at least have a good understanding of them, maybe a little bit beyond just that. And then I would think when you do reach out to them too, you know, kind of tailor the message would be
Mhm.
my, I mean, I don't get people calling me about influencer deals, but you got to tailor the message, because if you don't, it's just going to look spammy, and I'm sure they're getting a bunch of spammy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely let them know, give them some background on who you are and, and kind of like what your story is and why you think that they would be an effective person to represent your brand. Stroke the ego a little bit, reach out to them and let them know an influencer definitely has an ego. One of the things that you can look at, I think that's becoming big is around like Amazon. Like if you're going to be selling your products on Amazon, there are a lot of people who will create their own like stores or pages, and they will put products in their in that store because they have an affiliate link. If someone buys from their store, it's not their products. Then they will get a commission off of that. And so those same people, you may be able to send your product to one of these individuals for free. They get to test it out, and then if they showcase it on the video and put it in they'll tell people like, oh, if you want to find this, go to my store, and you go to Amazon, you click on it, someone clicks and buys, it's an affiliate link, so they get a commission from that. So they're also incentivized to get those continual commissions off of that if you set up an affiliate link.
Right. Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. I've got one more question, but before that, I do want to again thank the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center for their partnership and support of what we're doing here with Small Business Breakthroughs, and want to again, shout out to SBDC Day and all the SBDCs and all of the SBDC clients around the country. The SBDC is like I said, it's a national program. Um, I think obviously I know we do great work, but I also know the other SBDCs that I'm familiar with, both around Ohio and around the country. They're all doing amazing work. So check out your SBDC. If you're working with us already, great. If you're not, go ahead and contact us and connect with us to help you with your business. Tonya, last question.
Mhm.
What would you recommend people that are listening to this, whether that be right now or they get on the YouTube when we put this up on YouTube in a couple of days? What's one thing that they should be doing as a small business owner to kind of just one thing to enhance their marketing, like they could do like today?
Um, I would say be intentional and consistent in whatever you do.
Right.
Those are the my number one is anything that you do in terms of marketing, make sure that you have a goal set to it. You have an action that you want your audience to take. It's not just something to post up, even and it can be something fun, around a pet, like everyone loves animals, and so I've seen posts like where people have on National Dog Day, put their dog in their branding items, their branding t-shirts. But be very intentional about every action that you take. Think about how is this action going to influence my customer to engage with me, purchase or buy, and be consistent. Make sure that whatever you do, you start doing something that you can do consistently. So if you can't post 3 to 5 times a week on Facebook, start with what you can. If you can get 2 posts a week going, great. Just stay consistent in those times. You don't want to post consistently for a month and then drop off for 2. People will automatically think the worst. They're not going to be like, oh, they're doing so well that they don't have time to post. No, they're going to think you're out of business. And so they're
Right.
like, they didn't post for 2 months, so they probably went out of business. That's what they're going to think. So be consistent, and so if you can only do, 2 posts a week, then only do 2 posts a week until you can build up the ability to do more. But intentional and consistent is what's most important.
Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you, Tonya, for joining us
You're
today. I
welcome.
think it's been really, really valuable. And again, thanks to everyone who is here with us today, um, enjoying the session. And for anybody who watches this on YouTube, be sure that you do subscribe to our YouTube channel, because there's a lot on there that can be valuable to you as a small business owner. And we will not be having another small business breakthrough in the month of March. We will wait until April, but we'll have an amazing guest. I think that's what it says on there.
Amazing guest.
For
Absolutely.
sure locked up. And I look forward to seeing everybody then. So have a great day and happy SBDC Day.